And good afternoon. Welcome to the Alex Urbina radio show. We're broadcasting live from Newhall, California, right here in your hometown station, KHTS. Today's show is about overcoming adversity with Jeri Seratti-Goldman. She's the co-owner of KHTS Radio with her husband, Carl Goldman. Both Jeri and Carl have been part of two separate quarantines regarding the recent coronavirus outbreak that they stumbled upon recently on vacation. One on the Diamond Princess cruise ship and one in Omaha, Nebraska, at one of the best infectious disease medical centers in the country. Carl's approximately 18 days still quarantined there in Omaha, testing positive, and we send our prayers that he turns a corner soon and gets a negative test for this COVID-19. But Jeri, on the other hand, has tested negative the whole two quarantines and has since been released and has returned home. Welcome home, Jeri, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah,
it's great to be home.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. So today I want to talk about overcoming adversity. And as I talk a little bit about the distinction of how to get yourself first to understand how we can overcome adversity that comes in our life, I want to lay down a foundation and let people know that both you and Carl have been coaching with me probably, I don't even know how many years,
Almost
but
10.
it's been about 8 to 10 years. And you guys have really learned some distinctions that I go over with you guys on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. And it's really helping you guys understand, I think, the things that you actually can control and the things that you can't, which really causes you the only other option, which is to surrender that which you can't control, and allows you to be in the present moment and then start focusing on the things that you can actually control and the things that you can do. And I want to talk a little bit about that with you. So as I open up this distinction, then I'll toss it back to you to see how it worked for you and how you framed it while you were in quarantine. So overcoming adversity, first, the very first rule is you have to learn how to not be in resistance to whatever challenge is you're faced with. Or whatever, you can't be in resistance to the event that's occurring or resisting what you have no control over. I think that's the first step, is realizing whatever's happening is happening for a reason and I have no control over it, meaning I might be able to influence it or choose something to go around it or overcome it, but I can't make it go away specifically because it's here now and I got to learn how to deal with it, right? So understanding the distinction between the things that I can control and the things that I cannot control. And once you understand that distinction, it makes it easier for you to surrender whatever it is that you have no control over. So here's an example of being in resistance. I'm going to use it more in terms or phrases that you would say that would paint a picture that you're in resistance. So it sounds like this. I can't believe this is happening to me. Why is this happening? This should not be the case. This sucks. I can't believe it. All of those are examples of that's somebody in resistance to whatever's happening currently in their life. And then an example of surrendering to what's happening or what's occurring sounds like, hey, it is what it is. Hey, stuff happens. Now what do we do? Where do we go from here? I got this. Hey, let's get this over with. Or let's roll. Let's get on down the path, right? So those are examples of somebody that's either in resistance to what's happening in their life or what's not happening. And so tell me what your frame of mind was when you kept getting notifications that you're going to be in a 14, because I was watching the first 14-day notification. You were like, all right, I got this. And it was, you guys were all like gung-ho, and you guys we're an amazing group of a team of leaders that were just saying, we're going to handle this. We're going to get through this, very positive. And then there was a second round, and you could tell it was kind of like, all right, we got this too. And so it was pretty amazing to watch you guys really show an example of not being in resistance to what's happening and just really embracing it and learning how to dance the dance within what's happening.
Well, it's really interesting because the first in resistance list that you read never even occurred to us. So thank you for all the coaching, because I feel it's because of the coaching that never even occurred of, oh my God, how can this be happening to us? We went into, okay, we got this appointment, that appointment, this has to be rescheduled, we have to do this with the house, the dogs, blah, blah, blah.
But because of the constant coaching, it's now just the air that you breathe, right?
It was innate. There was no other resistance at all,
Right.
especially during the first
But I got to
one.
remind you that when I first met you, This was not the case.
Oh, absolutely not. 10 years ago, no.
This is not the case. There was a lot of resistance because there was a lot of, when I first met you, was teaching you this distinction so that I can help you move forward with finding solutions and being solution focused rather than focused on the problem.
Yeah.
But now, and it's great to hear you say, like, it's just in our wiring now.
Yeah, it was absolutely in our wiring of, okay, we've got this issue of 14 days. So we went into just handling one thing at a time, not to get overwhelmed, and arranging our lives for the next 14 days, whether it was, oh my gosh, we got to remember to cancel the airlines so we don't get, we get a refund from Delta. By the way, I'm going to do a quick shout out to Delta. They were amazing. 6 airline changes, and there was only one. The first phone call was the only time that I got charged for changing it. So shout out to Delta Airlines and being compassionate when you would call and say, okay, this is who I am, this is where I am. And some people just laughed at you like, yeah, right. And Delta was not that way. So sorry for the left-hand turn.
No, it's okay. And so I just wanted to point out how inspiring it was to watch you guys when you did go live. You were kind of letting us peek into what was going on and the frame of mind that you had. And it just seemed like you guys you were still moving forward, handling business. Correct. Whether it was making phone calls to your staff and thinking forward and trying to be a little bit head down the road and make some decisions with your staff to set you up to win, whether it was rebooking new flights. It just seemed like you were more focused on handling the circumstance rather than being in resistance to the circumstance, more like being victimized by it, like, woe is me, I can't believe this is happening, and then going into that psychological funk. It was almost like you just avoided the funk and stepped right into let's do this, let's handle it.
And that's what happened. And what we did decide we did not go public about it, but we went into, okay, we've got to change this. And also, I have no words for my staff other than I've got the most incredible staff right here, right now, in the whole wide world. That's how I feel, because they helped assist. And whether even the kid that was watching our house and our dogs who got fired from his job because he works with us, I mean, a whole other bunch of stuff has popped up, but never did we even think about going in resistance. And the only reason we came forward, because we were watching people on the ship posting every minute of, we're not getting water, Princess Cruises stinks, just some really untruths. And it was like, this isn't cool. This is not what's happening. We are getting clean towels every couple days. We are getting food. We're not being charged for water. This is not cool. And that's why we went public.
And I'm sure that you guys still had some shortcomings. I'm sure there were some things that fell through the cracks, like you didn't get a request. But you probably just didn't blow it up the way the other people were that were in resistance to it and wanted to feed on the negativity. Because you can very easily, when you're in resistance to something and don't want it and you can't believe it's here, it's almost like this energy takes over, like an entity of, I'm going to over-exaggerate everything because I'm mad, because I'm frustrated.
Yeah, the first day, it was kind of ironic because we had very little food and no water. And our good friend Bruce Burrows, who owned a water company, was on the phone with us saying, you got a hot pot in the room, boil the water. Because I never drink the water on a ship. I always get, a little bit snobby, get bottled water. And it's like, oh my gosh, water was the one thing that kind of got me a little tweaked. And the minute Bruce said, just boil the hot water and put it in the refrigerator. Thank God I had kept empty bottles. And my fear was, it came for seconds and went away.
And I think it's more because of the constant development you've been doing in the last 10 years of just being self-aware.
Absolutely.
The awakening of a human being and really looking at yourself and being self-aware, you're able to reflect on yourself when you are being annoying, when you are being a drama queen, when you are over-exaggerating.
When I'm being a princess.
When you are lying, where you are doing the things that you know that they're not going to get you anywhere other than just continuing to go down that road. So that self-awareness and that self-check-in is your own internal dialogue where it goes, Jeri, stop being a princess, like, get over it. You could just boil water. So that self-dialogue and that self-awareness, I think, is what helped cause you guys, all 4 of you, to constantly keep shifting. Right? Where there's a lot of people that have never had that kind of wake-up call. They're almost like on automatic pilot and with the victim mentality, not being victims to what happened, but carrying a victim mentality, it's very easy to be in resistance and then go down that road of negativity.
Oh yeah, and we had a little mini suite, so we'd go out and talk to our neighbors on the balcony, and a lot of them were older, and it was just heartbreaking, and we were trying to encourage them and shift their mindset on, how this looks, because the first several days we were on the dockside, where we would see 65 new ambulances that morning, and we wouldn't get that night. It wasn't till that night that we said, okay, 65 people now came down with the virus, 75, 45. It became, oh my gosh, what the heck's going on? And we sat back and were, counting and what's the term? Help me here. Assuming what was going on.
AKA making up stories. And we're going to
Right.
talk a little bit about that term, because you got a lot of heat for saying that.
Yeah.
And so, which I want to now I want to transition now into learning how to master the ability of not being in resistance to what's actually happening is the first stage of freeing yourself up to create more peace, more joy, more solution focused. And so with that being said, there were a couple of things that happened that you did get in resistance to, and I want to point that out.
Sure.
And I'm only going to throw that out because we're good friends.
Absolutely.
And you're so transparent, which I love. And it helps people learn, because they can learn through our mistakes, including mine. So one of the things I think you went in resistance to was the constant hate that was coming at you.
I did.
And I think it was because you weren't prepared for it, for one. You're such a loving and giving person. To have somebody that doesn't know you, I think, say things that aren't true or drag stuff and manipulate it to paint a picture of you, it stings. And I'm not going to lie, because, I get it sometimes too. It's that for a minute, and then I have to reframe it in a way that sets me free. And I could tell you were really struggling with that. And there was a little bit of resistance to, I can't control what other people are going to say about me. And it really hurts when people make up stories about me that either aren't true. And so let's go down that road for a minute. You were on the television on a news station, and they asked you to share your story about getting onto the plane. And you were explaining to them that based on how you were operating on the ship, when they would take your test, if they never got back to you, basically that was an assumption that was good news, that you didn't test positive. So it was almost like no news is good news if we don't get back to you. So you guys took tests before you got on the plane, and up until that point of you getting off the plane, getting onto the plane, you had not got any response back. So you were still operating from no news is good news. And so you were explaining to the commentator that because we got no news, we were making up a story in our mind that we were negative.
Correct.
And he misinterpreted that for a moment and said, "Excuse me, what did you say?" And then as I was watching, I was hoping you were going to say, "We just made an assumption." And I think because of that little mishap and millions of people watching, there is a very small percentage of people that don't understand what that term means, making up a story. So I want to clarify that for the millions of
Please.
people now. Making up a story is just another term for I made an assumption. Because as human beings, we always make up stories about what we think is actually happening and what we're perceiving. And the reason why is because our mind cannot be okay with not knowing. So so our mind makes up a story to fill in the empty space. And so because the small percentage of America doesn't understand that, they interpreted it that you were actually admitting that you were lying about getting on the plane, which was not the case.
Absolutely not.
And so all of a sudden overnight, you had this small percentage of people that couldn't understand that, and they ran with it. It was like a piece of bait. They bit on it, and they took off on a hook, line, and sinker, and they went deep down into the depths of the ocean, collecting evidence and getting a whole bunch of people to see the way that they were seeing it. And I even at some point, because I don't usually jump into stuff like that, I kind of just let it happen the way it is because I don't want to feed into it. But I decided, you're my friend, I'm going to jump on, and I ended up getting on a conversation with a Twitter person who was stuck on that. And I literally spent about 45 minutes trying to explain this to her, and it didn't matter. Once somebody sees it like that, they now have to be willing to be wrong. And it's very hard for the ego to go, you know what? I stand corrected. You're right. Now that you explained it to me and I rewatched it, you're right. I can see where I misinterpreted. The average person's not going to do that. And so what they did was they bunkered in, and they got to ride that story forever now.
And they're still writing
And
it.
they're still writing it,
Yeah.
and they're still manipulating. And I think now they're even getting video of you, and they're splicing it
They're splicing
to create
it
a
up.
narrative
Yeah.
that you knew better and you did it
Right.
anyways.
And they're also making money on it. So there's YouTube videos out there that are monetized that they're making money off of. Something that, I was wrong with my words and I did not collect myself. I probably shouldn't have not been on TV that day. I think that was the second day of quarantine on my own where, I was still looking for, I think the first day I got 8 hours later, toothbrush and toothpaste and, still looking for deodorant and soap. And I was out of sorts.
Yeah, but I don't want you to make yourself bad and wrong because all you were doing was just being authentic. You were just being honest with what the guy was asking
Yeah.
you. And because you used that term and because a small amount of a percentage of the world doesn't understand that term, it just rolled out that way. What was heartbreaking was to watch you, watching it hurt you. It's like when you watch your son or daughter get bullied at school, it hurts because you love those people and you want to try to protect them. But it was gratifying to see all of the amazing, beautiful friends that you have come on and remind you. Because sometimes we need to be reminded that, hey, that we can't control those 2% of people that are going to just take that and run with it. It is what it is, right?
And the love and the prayers has been, and I think I was sharing with you this morning, I shared it on my Facebook Live. It's almost like, and I correct my words, having a funeral and still being alive, beginning to watch your own funeral, of getting the love and the outpouring and the prayers from people. So help me.
I'm not going to correct you because I understand what you're saying.
Other people may not.
I know, but you're going to try to fix your words to fix the 2%, and it won't matter.
Okay.
I understand what you mean. What you're saying was it was great to be loved and have all the people that you haven't heard for a long time just step out of the woodwork and go, hey, we're here for you. We love you. And what a great feeling that feels. And it's okay to say that.
I had people from high school reaching out to me, which was, every day I woke up to new blessings, but it was like, oh my God, I went to high school with this guy, or this was a neighbor from, when I was 12 years old. What an incredible blessing and treat that was, and encouragement.
Absolutely. So Carl, he's still in it.
He is.
And he's kind of has the same framework of it is what it is, so what, now what, how do I get myself healthy and get out of here? So with that being said, I was sharing with you before we went on the show how inspired I am by this guy. He's so resilient, and he's human. I'm sure there's parts of him where he's got his own worries and he has to experience the fear and the worry and then learn how to surrender it and let it go and then keep moving forward. But what a true warrior he is.
Well, and two, with the Guillain-Barré syndrome, it's been heart-wrenching because even on the trip, by the way, it was an amazing trip, regardless of what happened.
I didn't even get to tell you how it went.
We can't touch.
I didn't even get to tell you how it went, the trip, because it got superseded by all this.
So it was an amazing vacation, but Carl struggled on the trip just with the Guillain-Barré, and what that does to your body is it's numbness that goes through your toes and hands and gets worse. So his walking, his steadiness was really off during the trip, which we worked around and we came up with agreements of, I may go do this without you, and he was great, and I'm going to go look at, temples, and you're going to go kayak in the ocean, and it worked out really well. So. But then the hunkering down and with the whole virus, especially on the plane, where, here's my healthy husband that, we do so much activity and are so physical. And
he's like your Superman, right?
Yeah. To barely be able to get up and not walk off the plane was, oh my God, heart-wrenching.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, when we come back from the break, we'll talk more about how to overcome adversity with Jeri Seratti-Goldman, right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
Why do people from all over Santa Clarita come to our spa in Canyon Country? Simple. They want the highest quality services at prices that everyone can afford. This is Rosemary from Beyond Harmony Medspa. Read our reviews and know why we won the Ultimate Beauty Awards 2 years in a row by the readers of Elite magazine. Come and see how close we really are and experience the level of excellence that our clients have loved for the past 13 years. Go to beyondharmony.com or call 298-8008 today for a free consultation.
Your hometown station.
It can happen at any time. Breaking news in the Santa Clarita Valley. KHTS has you covered. Brush fires, emergency freeway closures, police activity. If it's happening in the SCV, we'll let you know about it with our breaking news coverage. Keep a channel preset to your hometown station, KHTS.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Hi, I'm Steve Cruz, and my wife and I own the local pub and grill. With 19 70-inch TVs, it's the best place in the valley to catch a game. We have a vast selection of beer, wine, and specialty cocktails to choose from, including our charity ale, where 10% of every pint we sell goes to Carousel Ranch. Our menu features classics with a flavorful twist. Come by for Taco Trivia Tuesdays at 7, Wines Day for bingo and karaoke starting at 8 p.m., and karaoke every Saturday at 9. Local Pub and Grill, right next to Bevmo on the Old Road. Support local, support community.
Hometown, your hometown station.
And welcome back to the Alex Urbina radio show. Hanging in there with Jeri Seratti-Goldman in studio. We're talking about how to overcome adversity. And we were talking to her a little bit about her frame of mind and Carl's frame of mind about how to really set yourself up so that you're not reactive in any situation. And that frees you up to be able to transfer into being more proactive where you're looking for solutions. And I talked a little bit about how to overcome adversity. The first stage is really being aware of your resistance and to the things that you have a psychological resistance to. Like, I don't want that. I can't believe this is here. Why is this happening to me? And it's a frame of mind that you, or we as human beings, sometimes when we're unconscious, it just kicks in. It's like your ego that wants to jump in and be confused about why this is happening and get stuck there. You can get stuck in not wanting something to happen, that it doesn't allow you to move around it, think clearly, and start finding solutions to either overcome it, get around it, move past it, and those kinds of things, which is the next thing I want to talk about. After realizing that you're in resistance, and then the way to let go of being in resistance is a process called surrendering. And it's an art form that you have to learn how to practice surrendering. So what are we surrendering? We're surrendering the fear, because there are some fears that have you locked in being in resistance. The fear that I won't be able to handle this. The fear that I won't be able to overcome what's happening. The fear that I'll lose control. The fear of, right? So when we're talking about surrendering, we have to surrender all the fears that come along with what's happening in the moment that you don't want to be happening. So once you surrender, then it frees you up to go into another stage where I call looking for solutions. When you surrender the resistance, it frees you up to now start thinking clearly, and you can start seeking solutions to get yourself out of whatever the situation is. It helps you move forward, right? And I always talk about what you focus on, you create more of. It's like your intention and what your eyes and your full being is focused on, you end up creating more of. So if you're afraid of something, you're going to create more fear. If you're not afraid and you're surrendered and you come from abundance, then you're going to allow yourself to be freed up, and then you're going to start thinking clear and finding solutions. Similar to right now, there's this fear that people are having in the community about stocking up, and this fear that they're not going to have enough water and toilet paper, that they're running to the stores and they're hoarding things. And it was interesting yesterday because I went to the market just to get basic groceries, and I purposely and intentionally only bought one item of all of those. One small case of water, purposely one small thing of toilet paper, one thing of Scott towels, because I wanted to be the opposite of what's happening in our community, which is fear. And so if enough of us decided that we're going to go and we're going to choose from the place of abundance, we can contradict, we can proactively counterbalance all the fear that's happening right now, but enough of us have to choose to come from that place to cause that shift.
And let's start.
That's why we're having these. That's
yeah.
why we're having these conversations, is to cause awareness and invite people to operate from that place. So number 2 is, after you let go of the resistance, start looking for solutions. Believe that you're competent enough to handle all of your circumstances, which I believe that you and Carl already operate from that place, because I've seen you now in the last 3 to 5 years. When stuff happens, sometimes by the time I'm walking in, you're already handling stuff. It's like a little bit of time, I'm less needed, right? which is gratitude from my place, and it's part of what makes me feel so honored to be a part of your guys' journey, because it's like you guys just handle stuff. You come to a place in your life where it's like, okay, it is what it is. Let's figure out what we're going to do. By the time I even get there, you guys have already handled majority of your
that's
circumstances.
your coaching. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah. And it also comes from your guys' leadership abilities and what you guys are committed to. You guys know where you're going. You know what you want to create. And then you just start figuring out solutions. So number 2 is you got to start now freeing yourself up to figure out, how am I going to make this better for me? So what did it look like for you once you finally decided, all right, I'm in quarantine, I'm in Nebraska, I'm not going to be able to see my husband, and this is the 4 walls they gave me, and the 1980s treadmill, and once you kind of just surrender, like, this is where I'm going to be at, what did it look like to now start focusing on solutions?
Well, so let's go back. I did struggle a little bit. I was, when we were told, because it was such a disastrous journey to get from off the ship, 6.5 hours out in the cold, on the rain, on buses, waiting at the airport, out in the rain again, very, very cold. So we were spent. We got on the plane, slept for a couple hours, woke up, Carl's fever's up. Go tell the doctor, they take him into quarantine right away. That started a little bit of fear, but what was really great was State Department kept checking in, saying, he's okay, even though he's got this high fever, we'll let you know. Then 2 hours before we landed, I was told I had to stay on the plane. So we were going to Fort Travis, California. I was like, okay, we're getting close to home. And then when I found that out, it was like, well, why can't we get off? And they said, because Carl's temperature was escalating, they said we were going to an Army base, an Air Force base. So very confused. Our friend Mark, who was with us, whose wife now has been quarantined for how many days prior to this in Japan, which was a whole nother. The morning she was taken away, it was a little bit of fear of, oh my God, we can't, Jeri's being taken away. That was very, very tough. And then, okay, now we need to move on. Let's keep going. And then,
why was it tough? Because it was
my buddy.
Your buddy.
My buddy.
And it was one of your teammates.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my gosh. And the way it happened, it was an hour. They made that call, and you've got 1 hour, no luggage, and just trying to hold her together. And Mark was, we were all trying to support each other with not breaking down. And then, of course, I was the first one to break down. Took her away. That was heart-wrenching. And then let's move to, I think it was Monday morning or Sunday, I don't know. I've lost we my mind's not completely clear on stuff. But we were told from media people, I think it was Sunday or Monday, Sunday, we were being moved off the ship and not being given any information. So we had CNN and MSNBC and calling us saying, you guys are getting off the ship. And we're like, what are you talking about? We don't know anything about that. And we're like, well, we can't leave Jeri. We're not going to leave. And Carl says, oh, yeah, we are. And we had, just so you know, too, tested when we found out Jeri had the virus. We tested that same day because we thought, we're in trouble here because we've been around in quarantine because our balconies were open during the whole cruise, so we just stayed together, never thinking in a million years this would ever even exist, that this would have happened. So on the plane, 2 hours in, they tell me, and it was like, oh gosh, and then Mark went to see if he could go with us, and that wasn't an option. So when we landed, it was a good 4.5 hours on the plane with horrible smell of Andy Gump, which was we had to be under blankets just to not have the smell of the Andy Gumps. That was crazy. And then to watch Mark walk away was, tough. And be able to sneak in, which I didn't care at that point. I snuck into the tent, and there was three 3 spouses and 3 people in the tent with Carl. State Department was amazing. They said, yeah, you're going to an Air Force base. Landed. There was, as we're getting off, it was a little shocking because ambulances and sheriffs and police, and that overwhelmed me a little bit. And then when we realized Carl couldn't stand and they wanted me to get off the plane, it's like, no, that's not going to work.
When you say overwhelmed, was it overwhelming like all of a sudden it got real to another level?
It got real. Because we also knew that Jeri, this is really important, Jeri had a fever the night of Valentine's. We had all gone out for our 3rd walk on the balcony. And we came back in. We were going to have a nice Valentine's dinner and watch a movie. That was our nightly routine. It's like date night. Every night we had date night. Right. It was fun. And we all took our temperature, and Jeri had a very high temperature and never felt it. And even when she went through the night and had a high temperature for 4 to 6 hours, never felt bad. The next morning, her temperature broke. She felt good. So during her journey, and as we were talking to her daily, she had, other than the temperature, there was no symptoms. She didn't feel bad. She was getting up at 1:30 in the morning, doing a Pilates class from St. George, Utah. I mean, that's how we were experiencing the virus. So it was frightening, and then to see all the hoopla, it's like, it was a little frightening, taken back, and then these amazing people from Nebraska got on, very warm and welcoming. They allowed me to be around Carl, which made me feel better. So getting him down, and as we were driving, I said, this doesn't look like an Air Force base. Oh, you're not at Air Force Base, sweetie. You're going to the Nebraska Medicine, one of the top hospitals in the country. So in the meantime, while I'm watching, as we're waiting, once we got into the quarantine unit, they had us wait in the car for a few minutes because they had to clear a path for us. There was me and another gentleman, myself and another gentleman, and he was a little freak because he also had a temperature. They wouldn't let us get off the plane till we had a temperature. So on a side note,
temperature check.
Yeah, so the other 2 spouses, I was still the only one. They both came down. The other 2 spouses came down with the virus too. So got into the room, and I'm looking, and it's a dorm room, and I now had watched Mark's videos of a nice hotel room, 2 bedrooms with a kitchen, and he gets to go outside, and he's showing all the goodies, and I get into my dorm room, and my princess hat went on. My princess, like, okay, I could do this, and Mark's got the welcome basket with the razor and the soap and the toothbrush, and it's like, I have no luggage.
So it's very easy to collect evidence that you weren't getting whatever you thought someone else was getting, right? You could have collected evidence.
I did.
And went on that road of resistance and then got yourself all worked up because, oh my God, look where I'm at. But that took an ability to shift your perspective into a state of gratitude, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it was too, as we were offloading, it's like going back to Fort Travis, guys, you have my luggage. And I had, thank God, a picture, and I said, go get it. Well, the one luggage that they put was all our black tie and dinnerware from the ship, which, not my face stuff, nothing that I needed was on that. And they were taking off, and they didn't care about the luggage. So, a little bit of resistance of, oh my gosh, what I'm going to do. And then to walk in a room and take, 8 hours to get a toothbrush. And I, became, okay, maybe if I get some lemon or strawberries, then learn you can't order any food. They can only come in your room 3 times. It took, I think, 2 days to get deodorant, a day to get a bar of soap, towels. I just rolled with it. So that's where the surrender really came.
And I think by you rolling with it, it opened up now a space for you to kind of share, which I really love. And I don't know if people are acknowledging it or aware of it. But one of the things about overcoming adversity is believing that you can either think of your own solutions or ask for support and have other people support you in solutions. And what I think was so amazing was that you have a village of people that are willing to support you. And when you opened up that space, it was like all these people were like, I got you. And it was stuff that was being sent to you, which would had to now have you look at your own worthiness and say, you know what, I'm worthy to receive the help from people and allow people to contribute to you. Because one thing I know about you is you're an amazing giver. And by also being a giver, I know what it's like to struggle with allowing ourselves to receive. I'm sure that when you allowed yourself to receive and people were giving it to you, I'm sure in your private moments it really hit you, and you were probably emotional from allowing people to give to you, because you're such a warrior and you're always trying to figure out how to do things by yourself, that it feels great to let people contribute and support you like that.
Well, and that's when I reached out to you, is like, I don't have my luggage, I don't have deodorant, I don't have a toothbrush, and they said we can't order from Amazon. He goes, oh, go order from Amazon anyway. What are they going to tell you? No, when the packages come? So there was rules that we had to follow. Don't touch doorknobs, you can't have boxes come in. And it didn't matter that I didn't have my luggage. And then I just thought, okay, I'm just going to order and see what happens. And they allowed me to have the boxes.
And so focusing on solutions, once you were in there, once you accepted that this is where I'm going to be for the next 2 weeks, now let me figure out how to make the best of what my time's going to look like here. What did you start figuring out how to set yourself up to win every single day in those 4 walls, so that you had a balance of everything you needed, from nutrition to creating energy, to stay positive? I'm sure there was a whole thing that you did, a routine. What did that look like?
Sleep was not one of my friends in quarantine, because the mattress and the pillow were not something that I could get used to. So I would get up and say, okay, at 3 a.m. I've got to move my body. And I would, put my music on and dance and dance and dance, just to get going and get the inner child. Then I get on the treadmill for a little while.
Should have created a dance party on Facebook.
Hey, Savannah Burrows got me through some of that.
Now that would have been a great Facebook Live. Hey, Jeri's dance party at 3 a.m. Who's up?
Well, I asked the people that would come in the room to videotape me on the treadmill, because what had happened was, as we were getting things in place and knowing, okay, I'm getting up, I'm working out, I'm dancing, and then I'm going to get on the computer and we'll start working with work, we created a routine that got us through the day. And it's like, okay, day 1, no big deal, day 2, and just one at a time. So when we in quarantine, there was no communication for many days. So I asked if they were open to feedback, which we do. That's how
quite regularly.
I call it the Alex speak. And when the CDC had landed with some psychiatrists and psychologists, they were saying, we had 2 weeks of watching stuff and then learning 8 hours later what was going on. That's not serving us right now. We get to know what's going on. We get to know if you test positive, if my husband has to start over for another 14 days. So I want to go back, because I got bashed where people thought, I was so selfish, I wasn't worried about Carl. Carl and I were in constant communication, even though he was unsteady.
What do you mean people were saying you weren't worried about Carl? Because your posts... Because you weren't specifically talking about what...
Right, because I walked in the room and did a video and became, I had the spoiled rotten brat hat on, and they were like, what's she doing? She's got shelter over her head. She's not even worried about my husband. Well, Carl was in the ambulance. We were talking the whole time. He's going, no, I'm not feeling as bad as it was. It was just the long flight, the high fever. Believe me, I'm okay. So... And he knows his body. I knew that he was okay. So that was a little bit of some hate too when my spoiled rottenness came out, which I see. But I would give the CDC feedback of, half the meals I have to throw out. I've got a food allergy. I can't eat onions and garlic. So they would hand it to me, and it took me 7 days to say, I can't eat this food, and I would throw it away.
There's a distinction between learning how to speak up for yourself and speaking up with yourself with a certain attitude, which has you cross into turning people off. You can still speak up for yourself in a powerful, neutral way, where it causes people to realize that they're falling short somewhere, and that they're willing to make those adjustments, where you end up getting what you're looking for, without coming off as the princess, without coming off as the rude, arrogant person. So, and that's a little bit of a dance that every person has to learn how to stand up for themselves, or use their voice to let people know what's okay or what not's okay, or to give feedback. But as long as you're doing it from a more neutral, non-judgmental, powerful place, it's more like getting what you want with honey rather than
right. And
with
that
vinegar. Finally
worked. And it was my oldest son that said, Mom, they were notified at 2 a.m. that you guys were coming. And that was 6 of us the first day. And then I think the second day there was another group from the Texas airfield that came. They're not equipped, so having a razor, having soap, having toothbrush in the room was just not something that they thought of. They were doing enough just to get people into the place.
Well, I think that from what I heard that they hadn't opened that unit for years,
yeah,
right?
Right.
So if it's on the back burner, those are things that are just going to fall through the cracks. You guys are kind of the guinea pig.
We were the guinea pigs, and we would. They then created a 3:00 town hall meeting where we all got to speak, and it was a lot of older people that were more concerned about the menu and how to get through the day, so they had them set up with art therapy and things like that, where Carl and I were just giving feedback on this communication is helping, knowing that if Carl tested positive, he did not have to start over 14 days because we were hearing so much stuff. We weren't going on to social media. This was major news channels that were giving us this information. So when we had the CDC and the Nebraska folks giving us the information firsthand, then we could bypass all the other stuff and go, okay, you don't have to start a 14-day quarantine. For Carl, it was 3 negative tests for him to get out. For me, 2 negative, but in the 4-week quarantine, 4 tests altogether.
Got it. When we come back from the break, we're going to wrap up How to Overcome Adversity with Jeri Seratti-Goldman right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
Santa Clarita, bedbugs are taking over our city. They've invaded our homes, our businesses, and most importantly, our sleep. If you have suspicious bites that appear nightly, or have a bug that you need ID'd, your best option is to make one call to All Pro. We offer a 100% guarantee that your bedbug issues will be solved with heat in one treatment. No need to tent or spray your house with chemicals. Heat is all you need. Call 661-298-2200 or text me a bug picture to 661-645-0540. It's time to sleep tight again, SCV.
The Art Gallery of Santa Clarita Artists Association, located in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Railroad and Main, features local members' original artwork with changing exhibits every 2 months. Purchase affordable art for your home or as gifts. Open Friday through Sunday or by appointment. Artists wishing to join the SCAA can visit santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming shows, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
This is a Rita's Daybreak. There's a huge crowd at Rita's. With so many amazing flavors, every day's a treat. Let's see what folks are celebrating.
I lost my first tooth. No more training wheels. My dog photo got 37 likes.
3 kids, 3 activities, 0 meltdowns. There you have it. Layer it, blend it, or drink it with Italian ice and creamy custard. So many reasons to celebrate at Rita's. This has been a Rita's Daybreak.
Your hometown station, KHTS.
And welcome back to the Alex Urbina radio show, broadcasting live from Newhall, California. Hanging out in studio with Jeri Seratti-Goldman. We're talking about how to overcome adversity. I noticed you were scratching your nose.
I know.
I do it too.
I would sit in my room because they said not to touch your eyes, and so when you have a lot of time, I would count.
It's amazing. It's amazing when you're self-aware. How and I'm not the best or greatest at being self-aware, and obviously this was one of the things that I wasn't aware of. And it was how much I touched my face, and it wasn't until all this happened that I really. I'm not that kind of analytical person where I'll sit there and actually count the number, which some people are.
I did.
But I had the time but I just noticed, like, more often than not, like how many times we really touch our face.
Well, and in quarantine we had to put masks on both on the boat and in the quarantine unit. So when someone came to the door, you had to put your mask on before they would walk in. Yeah, so, and then that's why the doctors are saying, do not wear masks unless you yourself are sick. Do not wear a mask because you're more apt to touch your nose, your eyes. Yeah, and it happens.
Yeah, got it. All right, how to overcome adversity. We talked a little bit about the first distinction, which is to not be in resistance to whatever the challenge is or whatever it is that's happening. You got to learn how to surrender all the resistance that you have about what that is. And then if you can learn how just to embrace what's happening. Hey, it's here. It is what it is. Now what am I going to do about it? Or it's happening. What does it mean to me? And then what direction do I want to go from here? Do I want to stick around and talk about this and have this be now my whole life, or a waste of 5 months of my life? Or do I want to now get around it and start figuring out a new solution? So number one is letting go of the being in resistance. And then the next thing is, after the resistance, is start looking for solutions. Get on the road to figure out what you're going to do next, game plan, even ask for support. Ask your village, ask your friends, your coach, your mentors, people that you trust, to say, hey, give me some advice. If you were in my shoes, what would you be doing? How would you handle it? And what happens is, when you're open-minded like that, you start to get all these other
Go ahead and order from Amazon.
Right? Or boil the water,
Yeah.
right? Just little things that, because
Boil the water, Bruce Burrows.
because you're in it, you just can't see it. So sometimes we need somebody from the outside to just point something out that's so obvious that we can't see. And then the last thing is, practice being present and in the moment, which seems to be one of the most challenging for all of us human beings, is learning how to be here now in the moment and be present. Because if you're not present in the moment, you're in your head thinking about the future, or you're thinking about what you're afraid of. And it's very easy to be up in your head, if you're not in the present moment, to be entertaining all the other things that you have no control over. And it's very easy to be up there hanging out in the what if. And the what if is the worst thing to ever try to entertain, because you never win. There's no solution to what if. What if is this game that your ego plays that has you go down a journey where you can get lost and you could drive yourself nuts. There's no such thing as what if. There's only what is. And so if you can learn how to be in the present moment and be choosing from what is and navigating around what is, you're going to start noticing you're getting a little bit further down the road to what you actually want, rather than get stuck in this psychological, mental, brain fog that you're not creating those kinds of solutions for yourself.
Yeah, and I also actually got it to take it a step further, because I say, between my prayers and you on my right-hand shoulder the whole time, being prepared in case I did test positive for the virus. What does this mean? Will I get to be around my grandkids? Things that started to pop up, and, I'll just take one thing at a time. The most incredible thing was, I took the time, and my pen just kept journaling every morning and every night of some of my experiences, whether I couldn't eat the food, whether it was couldn't eat the food. But what kept going from hand to paper was gratitude, and what I was learning from this. And I have an abundant life.
Yes, you do. And you're blessed.
Very.
And this is actually the next stage after being present in the moment, is shifting into gratitude. And gratitude is also an art form that we have to practice. And it's in those moments that are trialing and tragedy and seem to be the most difficult, most challenging, is in that moment, can you practice the art of finding what are you grateful for? And I think, and you've probably seen this, and everyone listening to me, you've all seen or watched a movie where they talk about this story where somebody thinks they have it the worst. Until what? Until you see someone else, or spot someone else, or introduce to someone else that has it worse than you do. So just know this. Anytime you're in a challenging time in your life, there's millions of people that have it 10 times, 100 times worse than you.
There was one day where, once again, I think it was on the 5th or 6th day, where I got another breakfast chock full of scrambled eggs and onions.
Which you can't eat the onions.
I can't eat onions.
Yeah.
And I.
Are you, because you're allergic to them?
I'm allergic to them.
Okay,
Yeah. So it was like, okay, not eating another breakfast. Boom, in the trash. Thank God I had some bars.
I get to not eat this breakfast.
I get to not eat this.
Because I get to look out for my own well-being. I don't want to make it worse for myself.
And it was the same day that the service was for Kobe Bryant. And it was like, oh my goodness, wow.
Right?
Just wow. And
doesn't that put it into a different perspective for you?
Or even watching the news and the 2 kids that had disappeared from Idaho with mother in Hawaii. I mean, there was some stuff going on when we were, on lockdown that was like, wow, this is no big deal.
All right, this is great info to share with your coach. Because every time you call me, if you're complaining about something, I'm just going to send you a text of whatever tragedy is going on in the world, or any mom story.
And that will knock you right off your behind.
And it's going to be, got it.
Yeah.
Thumbs up, got it.
We woke up this morning to an email from a lady that's daughter has cancer, I think from Utah. You know, this is nothing. This is cakewalk. This is nothing.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for taking the time to hang with me. It's always an honor and a privilege.
I can't kiss or hug.
I love you so much, and
I love
I'm
you,
going to hug
Alex.
you as soon as we get off the show anyways. But thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey and inspiring me through this whole process, and all the other people that are watching, just to let everyone know that no matter what life throws at you, there's always a way to overcome anything.
And my gratitude to you, I can't even explain, because without the coaching that I've had for the past 10 years, I don't think I would have been where I was without that.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, that's all the time we have. The good news is we're here live every Friday at noon, right here in your hometown station, KHTS.